So, guys, we are here with Mark Tanner, and we're going to have an awesome podcast. I just as a little caveat here, if you guys are tuning into this podcast to hear about window cleaning or glass restoration, you're screwed because we're here to talk about big dicks and Ford pickup trucks. And that's all the three of us know anything about. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So, Mark, how you doing, man?
Everything's good. Always staying busy, and I got my business pretty tight where I want it. It's not a circus.
Right.
I realized conquering the world in window cleaning really isn't going to get me anywhere. So I like to keep it in control,
Right. All right. So you guys are in full swing. Oh, well, you guys are always in full swing. And there is no summertime down there for you. It's always nice in Florida,
Well, window
right?
cleaning. Window cleaning in Florida is year round. We have very little change of seasons. If we get to 40 degrees in the winter, it'll be for 4 or 5 days, and then it's beautiful 70s in the afternoon. And summers,
Right.
we get rain every day for, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, and then it goes away, but it doesn't slow us down. And that's the nice thing about Florida is that it's year round. There is no, time off. It never ends.
Right. So you and Joshua have something in common. You are a second or third generation window cleaner, Mark.
I'm a second generation, and I have an uncle out in California. He was a window cleaner too. But really second generation.
Okay. Well, Joshua, his grandfather was a window cleaner. His
Yeah,
dad's a window
yeah.
cleaner, and he's a window cleaner. Isn't that cool?
And my uncle is one also. So
And
that's
Joshua is a first generation dog turd picker upper too.
first
You're the dog shit dude?
You're the dog shit, dude.
thepoopdudes.com, thepoopdudes.com,
Okay.
thepoopdudes.com.
What's in that big brown box behind you, dude?
Dog turds.
It's kind of smelling. I don't know.
Hey, I got a tip for you.
Dog turds. It's probably baby turds.
You should hand your customers out rubber bands and feed them to the dogs. That way it has a little loop to pick it up,
I just look into them and
Yeah.
throw them in the back sack.
Yeah.
But, I'll tell you one thing about the window cleaning. I went through a vocational program for marine mechanics. I've always been a hands-on guy. And when I got out of school and had a job for about a year, working on outboards and Boston whaler boats, and I enjoyed it. But my father had a window cleaning company, kind of in its infancy. And the shop I worked at closed down. Long story short, he said, come work with me for a week and get some money in your pocket. I didn't really have bills, but I said, all right. And I kind of fell in love with the fact that the freedom of it. And within a month, he put me in a truck and gave me a route, and we did storefronts. And it grew from there. I said, I'm going to give this a
What
year.
year was that, Mark? Like, what, are we talking late 70s, early 80s?
No, 87.
87.
Yeah, it was 87. And my father was in an area called Coral Springs, which at that time was such a so much growth. It was a new city. And it was him and a couple other companies. And he was able to grow so fast. Within 5 years, he had 5 partners because he didn't really believe in employees. I don't really believe in partners, but we
Right.
obviously think differently. And it grew to some substance that, was definitely in its time something pretty brilliant, I think.
Mark,
And I
have
love.
a question for you. When you say
Sure.
partners, okay, because this is a really, I was just thinking as you were saying, you were telling your story, and I don't mean to interrupt, but that's
No.
such a weird concept that your dad had believed in, his business to bring on, instead of employees, he would bring on partners. So they would have a share of however he structured it, I'm sure. But is there any way you can elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, he believed that if you were going to be involved in a business that's basically unsupervised, not big enough to have guys that were watching what everybody was doing, like you would have to do a lot of times with employees, and he would sell them a piece of business. Okay, so it was a way to make money as well. So he built up, let's say, $5,000 a month worth of income, and then a guy would come in and based on $5,000 at that time, they were given 20 to the dollar. So it would be a substantial amount. He would take a note from there, and they'd go build up. And next thing you know, it just grew and grew and grew. So they were doing phenomenal numbers. But when you look back at it and say, well, there's 5 partners all pulling out of that, it's not probably as good as an employee, because an employee doesn't get, 1/5 of the business. You know what I'm saying? I structure my business where it's a third in payroll, a third in overhead, and a third toward the company. So, and that's kind of basic business where I come from,
Right.
But then you run into the trouble with partners with personality conflict,
Right.
And then the wives get involved, come to my house for dinner, and how come you have a new car in the driveway and we're partners and I'm driving this hunk of shit?
Right.
Yeah. Comes the problem. The women get involved in the fucking.
Yeah, it breeds a little bit of envy and shit. Like, what are you doing that I'm not doing, or you're screwing me over, type of thing. You know what I mean? I get that.
And basically, in a nutshell, so I was the first employee, and then we brought on a second employee who actually I work hand in hand with now. I sold him business when I moved my company north, and a very good buddy of mine that would jump through a ring of fire for me if I needed him to. But so it grew and grew, and then personality conflict dictated that everything got split up, and then that pretty much left me without a job, So went to work for a company north, in Palm Beach, and it's 50 miles north, and that's where I started to learn high-rise and pressure washing, and worked with a very good guy named John, who had been in the business for 40, 50 years and come up through the ropes of high-rise with block and tackle, and gave me a lot of personal training. At the time, I pushed back because I was a know-it-all,
Right.
But I learned so much from him, and he eventually came to work for me before he retired, and he was probably the most regimented, greatest employee I could ever want, because he had so much of a wealth of experience, and I forget, a lot of times when I rag on someone about something, I see they're doing a video, they didn't have the mentors that I did.
Right.
And it's kind of unfair of me to laugh at someone and call them a YouTube window cleaner. The YouTube window cleaner is only as good as the asshole making the.
Oh, we lost Mark. Fuck. We lost you for a second. Yeah, we lost you for a second. The YouTube window cleaner is only as good as the asshole what?
Making the video.
Right.
Come on. You guys know, you see the some guy doing this technique, and you're like, dude, I was doing that by my third year, But so it's not fair. And I had to step back, and a good buddy of mine, Mike Commons, he's in the group too. He says, Mark, you don't understand that these guys didn't have a mentor like what you had. And
see, I had an older guy, a guy that's been doing it since like the late 80s as well. He's the one that kind of showed me how to clean glass and the whole fanning and a 2-arm technique, to save the water from hitting the floor. I've seen all that shit before. You know what I mean? I just, you see things, and like you said, you kind of take that for granted. Like, look at these fucking yums on here. Like, you ain't doing nothing cool, dude. You're not reinventing the wheel, brother. You know what I mean? Well,
here's a funny thing.
I have a question. I have a question for you, and this goes directly towards Josh because I know he wants to know. You own a company. I have my child is my employee, so I don't have no problems. So I want to know, what's your employee attrition rate? And when you get a guy, do you keep him on? And how do you do that? Do you do anything magical? Because Josh needs to know, because he's having some problems. These fucking guys that Josh is fighting. Yeah, can you
just douse me with it, please?
You want to hear how I do it? This is what I do. Okay, and this works for me. And if you can get some ideas out of this, or anyone can get some ideas out of this, then I hope it helps. Okay, and again, my way might not be the right way, but it's the way I do, and it works for me. First of all, I have 2 high-rise guys. One of them's been with me about 11 years, and the other one's been with me 10 years. Okay, again, these guys I could call them on a Sunday and go, hey, such and such is having a visit, and they're on it. Okay, These are salaried employees that get extra pay for weekend work, but for the most part, they get the same thing, even if they go home because the wind picked up or it rained, but I don't have to babysit them.
Right.
Okay. But here's what I do. I have a new guy named Jordan, good kid, came out of Hawaii, worked for Worldwide Window Cleaning. They put him on a 42-story building. And the first thing in an interview, I told him, first of all, I don't care who you work for. You forget everything you know, and you're going to stand on the ground. You're going to wash windows with me. And he says, well, do I have a job? I said, not for 30 days. Well, what does that mean? I said, you've got to fit in with me. You've got to fit in with the guys. you got to fit in with the way we do things. So it's got to be personality, technique, skill, and the passion, and you got to have work ethic. Okay. These things aren't easy to do, Josh. I mean, it was revolving door for a long time for me. But you got to dangle a carrot. You got to show them the light at the end of the tunnel that this is worth them getting out of bed every day. So this new kid comes to me, and I'm going to use him as an example. And we put him, and he knows how to wash pretty good. You know, I told him, look, just observe what you see, ask any questions, and try to get with the program, because we're a team. Okay, we work like a basketball team. One guy's doing one thing, one guy's coming behind him. Like we can go through a place, one guy's wetting tops, one guy's pulling, one guy's doing bottoms and wiping sills, like a freight train. Mm-hmm. Okay, we don't split up and go different ways, and then you're wondering that this guy's sitting on his cell phone checking Facebook to see what TJ just said. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Exactly. So now he's come around, and personality, he fit in. So after 30 days, you know, I keep a good poker face. He's like, well, do I have a job or not? And I'm like, yeah, I guess we'll keep you around, you know. And we agreed to his pay. And he's actually the only hourly employee I have. And that only reason he's still hourly is because he can't get out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning. He shows up at 9:30. And I'm like, dude, I'm about to tell you, after I tell you good afternoon, I'm going to tell you to go home, because, you know, I'm working harder. Mike's working harder. Mark's working harder. Eddie's working harder. Everybody's working harder because you can't get out of bed because whatever, you know. And eventually they come around, you know, they start to look around and realize that they've got the benefit of freedom, and they've got the benefit of an employer that's going to, every time they do something right, I'm going to tell them. Every time there's extra money, if they beat a budget on a job, they get a little bit of a bonus, you know. I mean, I do a lot of things with the employees to keep the morale up, so that it's not just a, you know, go out and wash 50 storefronts in a day and go home beat, you know, and ragged. I mean, there's got to be more to it than that. No one's going to last with that.
What are some of those incentives you're doing?
Well, the high-rise guys get a great incentive. If I have everything's a budget. So if I've got a 5-day budget on a job, and I tell them, listen, you know, we've been doing this job in 5 days, and then we can squeeze it into 4, work a few hours later. And again, their salary, so they really only need to be out 8 hours. Or high-rise guy, you'll get 6-7 hours out of for the most part. And they'll bust it out and get it done in 4 days, and they get a nice bonus for that. So money talks, you know.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer that I don't flaunt anything in front of my guys. I don't brag. I don't, you know, make them feel equal. We go to a job, we all discuss how we're going to do it, what's the best way to do it. And it's not always right on the first time, but listen to what they have to say, you know, and treat them. You know, my father used to tell me, your problem, Mark, is you become friends with these guys. And I said, no, not friends with them. We don't really hang out, but they respect me and they want to come to work, because I work for an asshole. Nobody wants to work for an asshole, right. You know. And here's a for instance. First time I bought a carbon fiber pole, we were cleaning a country club, and we had the old school tucker brush that weighs 88 pounds. And my guys leaned it up on a tree, and they went to lunch, and they came back, and it was gone. And the pole cost me like $600. And I come pulling into the job, and I see the look on the face, and I'm like, what's up? You know the big pole you just got us? Yep, it's gone. What do you mean it's gone? They tell me the story. And he's like, you're not going to yell at me? I'm like, I'm not your father. I'm not going to yell at you. Wait, right. Guess what? Now you get to hump the 88-pound pole again for a while until I figure you've worked it off. That's it.
Right.
What's going to change? You know?
They're not going to do that shit again.
Exactly right. I said, you knowing that you disappointed me is worth more than me yelling at you. And I believe this. There's 2 people in the world that are allowed to yell at me. Well, including my wife, but my mother and my father. Right. And that's it. Right. I'm not going to listen to it, you know. So I'm not a yeller, you know. And again, keep an open door policy with them. Treat them right, you know. When you can give them some extra bucks for doing something. You see, my guys also have a benefit because I'm not a residential company. When the average residential calls in, or one of my storefronts or my commercial job says, hey, can you do my house? And it's an average 3,000 square foot house that could pay, I don't know, $300. I give it to the guys to do. They go make the money on the weekend. You know, I tell them, you just don't do it during work hours. And you need the pressure cleaner, take the machine. You need, you know, the Waterfed Pole, take the system. and go make the money, because that takes the stress off the company of them coming back to me and go, I need more money. Well, I just gave you a $300 house.
Right.
You understand? There's a lot of guys that won't do that. And some people listening go, you're stupid.
Right.
But again, I'm not going to milk these guys for everything they can. Is it going to change my life? The $300? Well, it's nice to have, but I'd rather them have it and enjoy it. I'm making my living.
That's a great strategy, Mark. I really,
right. Yeah.
That's a good strategy.
That's not bad at all, man. Where the fuck were you at when I started out? Jesus Christ.
Well,
I was worked like a fucking pack mule. You know what I mean? There was none of that shit.
No, I give back to them in the respect that, I mean, look, I've had other companies solicit my employees, and they tell them, I get better equipment. I got this, I got that, and bonus structure. And they look at them and laugh and say, you can't touch what I'm making here. You're going to promise me the world. A guy walks up and some residential guy says, anybody want to make $40 an hour? And I'm like, okay, I'm in. I go, you're going to guarantee me 40 hours a week plus? Well, no, I go, no, get out of here. He's like, you're pretty good at what you do. And I go, yeah, well, you don't know it, but I own the company, but I'm getting my hands dirty too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I enjoy it.
I always try to, even through the struggles now of trying to put a good crew together, we're out there, we're going in, and we're attacking it as a team. And I'm a firm believer in, the boss has got to pull his own weight too. He's got to be a leader. He's got to be a fair person. He's got to have some compassion. And I've grown up around nothing but window cleaners. I know these are flawed individuals.
Right.
Yeah.
Flawed individuals. We're a different breed.
The best thing I can tell you now, again, I'm not. You're primarily residential, Josh?
Probably 70-30, 65-35.
Yeah. See, putting someone in someone's home is a lot different. The high-rise guys, I've always said this, and I still believe this to this day, that, aside from all the bullshit you see on Facebook, what the best window cleaner in the world would be? A guy that has the skill set and the nuts to do high-rise, and he's as fast as a good storefront guy and as clean as a residential guy, meaning not leaving a mess everywhere.
You've put thought into the perfect window cleaner. How cool is that?
Right.
Right?
Exactly right.
You've actually thought about this.
So essentially, what Mark Tanner's looking for is me, minus I don't like doing high-rise shit. So,
dude, we got plenty of room on the ground.
Because I'm perfect. No, I'm kidding. About 55, 60 feet in the air. After about that, that's it. Unless Josh is running the lift. If Josh is running the lift, then I'm only good for about 20 feet. Then I'm scared to death.
I got another funny story from you. I could go on all night. This one you'll find funny. Young kid comes to me and he says, he calls me out of the phone book and he says, I'm looking for some work. And I never tell anybody we're not hiring. I say, let's meet. You fill out an application. I want to see what makes you tick. And I'll know within the first 10 minutes if it's worth the time to buy the kid lunch. But he comes to me, his kid Daniel, and he says, I've been cleaning windows for several years. I am a residential guy, and but I'm really good at what I do. And I said, Daniel, I could use some help right now. And it would be, you'd start off on the storefront, and eventually if you take to it and we feel you're the right candidate, we move you into ladder work. You'll learn how to run the lift. And then you can get into high rise, where I'm not going to promise you the world that it's that much more money, but you'll always stay busy and you'll have a job. I said, and if you get anything out of working for me, it's going to be, you can go anywhere in the country and qualify to work for some of these guys. And you might even be better than a lot of the people. I'd like to believe that. So he says to me, I just want you to know, and this is where he screws up, I'm the fastest window cleaner Central has. And I looked at him and I said, let me explain something to you, dude. First of all, residential is a whole nother animal. And second of all, if you come to work for me with that on your shoulder, my guys are going to eat you up and spit you out, because most guys are competitive by nature, okay? Right. And if I said, you show up and know what you're doing, they'll watch you while you don't know they're watching. They'll say, this guy knows his shit. But if you don't, they're going to come up to you, put their hand on your shoulder and say, listen, try this, try that. Wetting is as much of a technique as squeegeeing. Okay,
Amen.
right?
Amen. Yeah.
And he made it for. Well, here's the funny thing: I bring him out for the first day, and I didn't take him under my wing. I put him with the high-rise guys. Were doing the first floor and wrapping up a building, and he called me up and he goes, "I'm not so sure this is going to work." And I said, "Well, what's up?" And he goes, "I can't clean like these guys." I said, "But listen to me. You admitting you can't clean like them is all I need to hear. We're going to make you clean like them. And we're going to teach techniques that are, I'm going to show you 10 different things that no one thing is going to get you home earlier, but when you do all 10 things, you're done an hour early."
Right.
That's it. You can put it together, know. I used to have, my father had an old timer working for him named Mike, and we started off with 18-inch tools, and commercially I use 18s and 22s, pretty common. I'm not one of these guys who has 48 squeegees in 72 different sizes. And
me either.
I kind of think that's funny. I always believe a good drummer can play with any sticks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I love it. I love that.
But hey, look, the residential game is a different game, and I know there is some validity to having multiple size channels, though the one pull method, really, I'm a two pump chunk. A two pump jump?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But this guy Mike that worked with my dad, another old timer, he says to me, "I gave you an 18-inch squeegee, and you're going back and forth 17 times on the window. Take 17 inches of water off with an 18-inch squeegee and watch how fast you get to the bottom." And I'm like, "Holy shit, look at that. I can do it in 2 strokes." He goes, "I'll show you how to do it in 2 strokes. Next thing you know, we're in competition, and I'm learning something. You understand?"
Right.
So, but so you got to, I believe in technique. I believe in with anything, whether it's high rise or ladder work or water-fed pole work. Look, I could teach a monkey to wash windows. I just can't get him to show up every day. That's
right.
part of the problem.
Right.
A lot of monkeys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But Josh,
go ahead. Do you do a lot of water-fed pole? I mean, do you utilize it? Because I mean, not for nothing, but you tend to shit on it a little bit here and there. Like, I want to mount my screen washer to the end of my water-fed pole.
Yeah, screen washer. Look, again, I'm sure there's a market for that. It's just not in my world.
Right.
So I'll answer it like this, okay? My company is a very versatile company, meaning we have our own lift. We have the experience with swing stage and control rope descent equipment. So I do believe it's a great tool to have in your arsenal in certain setups. So I have, again, we're not a residential company, but I have 2 estate homes that are, $30 million homes we do every single week, and they're on the ocean.
Uh-huh.
So we use the water-fed pole because there's nothing like French windows in the sun with a 50-mile-an-hour cross breeze with salt air. And you literally can clean it, and 2 hours later it's white again. And these are people that they're like, "I want it clean all the time." So
right.
Every Friday we do the estate homes, and they're strictly water-fed pole. Now, there is more of a challenge on the ocean, and I'm sure some of you guys have similar instances where we'll actually water-fed pole it, and if it's on the shady side but the wind is strong, we'll just go by with a dry squeegee and take the water off, because those water droplets will collect the salt and leave spots.
Yeah. I have that same kind of issue here at times, with the lake. It just that wind and the sun, it just doesn't have enough time to dry like it should. So you gotta expedite the process a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Exactly. Look, the poo-poo on the water-fed pole is on the guys that, I believe this, learning how to do it is a brilliant move, but you should learn traditional techniques, because I see guys going,
has its place in the arsenal.
Yeah, I threw my bucket out. Well, how do you do it inside? You go in someone's house with that shit?
Right. Right. I think that's, I mean, really water-fed pole for me when, I feel like, I don't really see it as the easy way, but it is the easy way. And I feel like if you're going to learn how to do something, you need to learn how to do it the hard way first, and then you can graduate to the easy way, because when you're using the water-fed pole, you're going to take that knowledge you learned from scrubbing the shit out of those windows with your mop and your squeegee and wiping everything. You're going to take that knowledge and apply it to the water-fed pole and use that expertise to kind of make that job turn out the best possible.
It makes you a well-rounded window cleaner, having being able to utilize the tools.
So like I said, you take the high-rise guy, and then you take the commercial storefront guy who's fast as lightning, and you take the residential guy who's neat as a pin, and then you add the water-fed pole. That's the perfect window cleaner. But let me tell you one thing. I'm still this is the two things I've seen with the water-fed pole, and I've been using it for about 10 years now. I can say this, that jobs that I had, like my houses on the island that I've been doing for so long, we did them traditionally up front, and the pricing was to climb ladders. Right. So then all of a sudden I take a 6-hour job and I can do it in 3, and do probably a better job on cut-ups, on French windows. That was the most brilliant thing. However, now guys are coming in and bidding the job instead of at 3 hours, not at 6. So it's kind of taken away some of the revenue, because if they're taking prices, and I'm at $700 a cleaning and someone's at $350, I believe this. I'm not pricing it based on what system I'm going to use. I'm going to price it on what's the most efficient and what works best in that particular job. That said, I'm the professional, so I make the decision on what we use. Right. Okay. At the end of the day, you're going to have clean windows. If I can do it in
the
half
bottom line for them is, if your windows are fucking clean and spot free, that's all that should matter to you. Shouldn't matter how I'm doing it.
Some of the customers you're talking about, also, money isn't really playing into their decision making. Correct. I mean, these guys have money.
These are billionaires. They're not millionaires. They're billionaires. And I explained to them the process, and I explained to them that, I lost one. I had 3, and now I have 2. Actually, I had 4, but one of them we do totally traditional, because it's like a car showroom. It's giant windows, and it's a walk around, and takes about an hour every time you do it. But the other 2 I had on the island were French windows, and there's really no better way to do them than the water-fed pole, especially 2-3 stories, 2.5 stories. So that said, one of my homeowners that I recently lost married a younger woman, and she said, "I don't like what you're doing here. You leave and the windows are wet." And I explained to her the process and show her the filtration. They don't give a shit about that, and she says, "Well, we're going to try to save a few bucks here." And I'm like, I'm fine with that. Listen, just don't be embarrassed or hesitate to call me back if you feel you made a mistake. I'm not going to beg you to stay. I've been here 7 years. That's a long run. And if it doesn't work out what you're doing, certainly give me a call. So the next time I drive by, there's a 20-foot A-frame ladder with a Home Depot blue-collared pole with some kind of vice versa backflip that they're selling up at Home Depot. Right. Okay. And I'm like, with 30 years experience, I can't clean cut-ups standing on an A-frame ladder with a 20-foot pole. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to the saying that I like is, if you think professional is expensive, wait till you pay for amateur hour.
Right. Right. I usually, when I get a customer, I have them I have them for a while. You know what I mean? I try to not necessarily bend over backwards, but my residential customers, I do some work on an island as well, out in the middle of Lake Erie, and these people, they're not on these island homes all the time. Those are like that's where they go to rest their heads. Their vacation homes. So I'm kind of, when you said, you got to be able to trust somebody to go into somebody's home. You know what I mean? You get a little hesitant after a while, because you're paranoid. You know what I mean? Like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? It's like,
here's what you got to watch, TJ. Going to a home with an employee is one thing. Mm-hmm. You sending an employee to a home is a whole nother ball game.
Right.
Look, I know this with the high rise. Okay, we do 90% of our high rise is what we call class A office buildings, the ones that are willing to do it 3 or 4 times a year on a schedule. We don't do a lot of on-call cleanings. And then I started getting some condos. We have huge condos here in Palm Beach. So I'm like, all right, well, here's what you don't realize. When I wash an office window on a 20-story building, whoever's sitting on the other side is happy that someone did something for them, right? And they're not getting a bill. The building's getting the bill. Right. But when you do something in someone's house, because let's be real, that guy owns the condo, even though it's 300 others in the building, he owns that particular condo. He's going to complain. You understand?
Right.
And it was like, you can't make 300 people happy, especially when they're retired lawyers, architects, and professionals, because those guys generally know more about window cleaning than I do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Of course, yes.
Yeah. So I've steered away from the condos because you got to deal with a board. You got to deal with an HOA. And I'm just like, it's not for me. I can't take the emails. I can't take you're never going to let me get out of here and make a living. That's the bottom line. Okay. Right. And the building manager
message to them and all the complaints. And by the time you get done touching up all of whatever they say you missed or whatever the issues are.
Yeah.
Your bottom line is shrinking. Your profit is shrinking.
Exactly. Well, 90% of the time, Josh, you know what the problem was? Is the inside. You know how many condos, they'd make an appointment, you go up to see the person, you bring a blue huck towel with you, and you pull the blind up, and you see the haze from 5 feet away, and you wipe it, and they go, oh my God, look at that. And I'm like, yeah, well, if you like the inside, it's $125 a unit. Here's an email address. The guys do it, again, after hours. And my guys made a tremendous amount of money doing patios and interiors for $75, $100 a piece. It takes a half hour to do them. I'm like, go run with it. You go deal with these people. Because guess what? As soon as you show up at noontime, they're going to lunch somewhere and you got to come back.
Right.
You know how?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've found people in luxury apartments and condos to, I think, and you're kind of saying the same thing. They want to be catered to, no matter what type of, what service we're offering. It's long as we make them feel important and we cater to them.
Exactly.
I get it. I understand where you say you don't have time for that. I wish I could say that too.
Yeah.
But understand this, Josh. We're going to go on another little tangent here to what I see sometimes coming around on the internet when someone complains that he didn't get his price or whatever. Let's all agree that window cleaning is a luxury item. Okay.
Yes.
Meaning you're not curing cancer, guys. Right. You're a window cleaner. You're a janitor with a lot better skills. That's the bottom line. I hate to say it, but that's what it is. Okay. So, where I live, if you're in a gated community, and of course I don't live in one, but if you don't cut your grass, the city will send someone to cut your grass and they send you a bill. If you own a storefront and you decide not to clean your windows, people walk by and they might notice. Of course I would notice, but right. You say, this guy's a pig. He doesn't clean his windows. Big deal. You're still going to shop there most likely. Right. The city's not going to come out and do it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's a total luxury item. So, look, take what you can. It's almost nice sometimes when the phone rings because you're like, wow, somebody's missing me.
Right. Yeah, no shit.
We get paid to do this. Right. Like sometimes I'm in all like, being a third generation window cleaner, I'm like, my grandfather made a living off of this, supported 6 kids. My father made a living off of this, supported 3 kids, and then I'm like, I'm making a living off of this, and we're just cleaning windows.
Yes,
you can take it down to that very small part, and then we're window cleaners, so we want to act like we are curing
I think
cancer.
that's one of the things that I think bothers me the most, and it's only a social media thing, but people kind of. They just kind of they kind of church it up. And I know that's a bad way to say it, but it's like they over it's one thing if you're doing restoration work. You're taking scratches or surface, like Mark's really good at. If that's one thing that then I could see maybe walking around with your chest all puffed out. But if you're just cleaning storefronts or you're cleaning Granny's condo, I mean, relax, bro. You know what I mean? Just relax, dude. Relax, bro.
Some window cleaners.
Some window cleaners are next level. They have like a PhD in window cleaning, and they have like a PhD in motivational speaking and a PhD in business management, and they'll coach you on how to do it the right way. It's just like, come on, man.
Most of the time, these guys are making videos, putting them on YouTube, and you can look at this hack and go, dude, really? I mean, come on. Dude, I got in a fight with a guy one day and he took an account from me. It was a real estate, and he had a broom handle and both ends were sharpened. So he put a wooden stick, and he put a squeegee on one side and a mop on the other, and he would scrub it and kind of flip it around and he kind of knew how to clean windows, but he took the job for me, and I was probably 25 years old thinking I can, at that time I was a little more invincible than now, and I walk up to him and he says, I go, they actually pay you to do that? And he's like, what? I go, you took that fucking job from me. You don't even know what you're doing. And he swung the stick at me. Well, then
See, hey, that's what you get for messing with a guy that knows window kung fu, Mark.
Exactly right. Like that guy, Jerry Springer. But I'll tell you, Josh. Let me ask you a question, Josh. And here's another thing that's a pet peeve of mine: is I see, and I'm going to exclude some of the franchises because we all have them in our areas. And look. They kind of take the art of window cleaning away when they put a can of spray foam in a kid's hand and give them $8 an hour to go wash a Starbucks. I mean, that I don't look at that as a window cleaner. But here's the thing: my father taught me this way, and it's about respect for your competition. And for the most part, I have a lot of respect around here, and we all kind of watch out for each other. And that doesn't mean there's not the occasional guy that comes along and he'll hammer on you. But I've walked into dirty jobs commercially and they say, oh, I have a guy. And I'm like, well, who is it? And honestly, I'll give that guy a phone call and say, hey, Alan, your job on Okeechobee here is dirty. You guys haven't been doing it. I went in there, but I didn't take the job. And we kind of work that way together. But then I see these other guys, I mean, I had a guy at a French restaurant up here in Palm Beach Gardens, and I was getting $75 a month for twice a month. It was a little job. And the guy comes to me and he goes, Mark, I got a guy that came in here. He's going to do it for $45 a month, and you're charging me $75. And I'm like, dude, if the $30 means that much to you, put the key in the door and leave now.
Right.
And he says to me, well, things are tight. It's a new business. I go, when you opened your store, I started in the middle of the month. I didn't even charge you for the first cleaning. I wanted you to get some money in the register before I give you a bill. I said, and I've been here religiously and I take care of you. And he says, well, here's the thing. The guy offered me 6 months free service. And guys down here do that. We get a lot of retirees that move to Florida. Yeah, they move to Florida. They sell their route. They got some money in the bank and they want something to do. So they go out. And the guy says he's going to give me 6 months free service. And then it's going to be, $35, $40 thereafter. And I looked at him and I said, I'll make you a deal. I can beat that. And he says, okay. I said, I charge you $75 and I don't give you nothing free except for the first, cleaning because it was the middle of the month. I didn't charge you. I said, how about this? I'm going to bring my family in here and we're going to eat once a week. Now, twice a week because she's going to clean you twice a month. I'll bring the family. We're going to eat twice a month and we're not going to pay you for 6 months. And then after 6 months, I promise you, I'll still come in twice a month and I'll pay you menu price. And he's looking at me. I said, can you make a living? And he goes, keep cleaning my windows. I said, come on, man. I'm just trying to make a living here. I said, let me tell you one more thing. Because I do buildings, I've got a lot more insurance than I need to clean storefronts. Mm-hmm. So just think of this. One slip and fall in front of your store is going to cost you a lot more than $30 a month, my friend.
Right.
And if he's not insured, they're coming after you.
Right.
So, but look, you get out of it what you put into it. And I just like to cruise at an even altitude. I'm very happy where we are right now. And, we pick up and we lose a few. And I try to, my father always said, if you lose one small job, pick up two. Make it a point to pick up two.
How long did it take for you to, since you've been in it for so long, how long did it take you to get to that even altitude where you felt comfortable, where you start saying, okay, I'm going to, we're at that good altitude, we're cruising. I'm not saying you pulled off the throttle or anything like that, but you probably have a little bit more sense of ease.
Okay. There's a great answer. I got an answer for that, and it's exactly the way I feel. What happened was I've seen companies outside of window cleaning. I had a buddy with an AC company. Within 3 years, he had 17 vans and 30 employees, and he imploded because the base wasn't there. Mm-hmm. Okay. What happened with me was I started growing. I was very fortunate. I had enough work that I purchased from my father to pull enough of a paycheck to support myself and my wife, and she did work. And so I had, let's say, 5 days worth of work, but I could probably do it in 3. But instead of doing it in 3 and screwing around, I did 4 hours a day and spent another 4 hours soliciting and picking up and picking up and picking up. Then I had my first son, and I was working average of 6 days a week. I didn't want to lose watching my son grow up, so I bit the bullet and put an employee on, which, I don't care what anybody says, an employee is the most expensive thing. I could buy 2 trucks, 3 trucks for one.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So I bit the bullet, and we put an employee on, and I started releasing the reins and allowing him to control the work that he was going to do without me being there was the hardest part to wrap my head around. And I will say this. I'm a great window cleaner, but I'm a horrible manager. I don't have an education in business. I don't have an education, not a college boy. I'm a street boy that graduated high school and always been working on shit. So I started to feel, as I was adding employees, revenue, insurance, equipment, and I do put a lot of money back into my company. I love equipment. I love toys. I try everything that comes out, whether I continue, not is kind of irrelevant, Still haven't bought a screen washer yet, but maybe that'll happen. But anyway,
only if you attach it to your fucking water-fed pole. If you buy one and I don't get a picture of it on the end of a water-fed pole, we're not friends anymore. You've made too many threats about putting it on the end of a water-fed pole to not do it.
So to answer your question, Josh, it started to get out of control, meaning the amount of phone calls, complaints, people saying I'm not paying, account losses was taxing, and my sanity is worth more than the money I make cleaning windows. So I started to reel it back and say, this is my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. I can't afford to put supervisors on watching people to make sure they do everything. I should be the one doing that. But I refuse to not get my hands dirty. I don't work as hard as my guys do, but I'm out there every day. So when I started to feel it get out of control and didn't feel like trying to pay someone to oversee it other than myself is when I started to fly at that altitude. Okay. So I said, this is the amount of revenue we're producing. This is the overhead. We're certainly profitable. I can take care of the guys. I can buy, a new piece of equipment when I want it. And that's where I'm happy, and again, people will laugh when I tell you I don't have a website. I've never hung a door hanger. I've never had a yard sign. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with those things, but because I'm a working owner, I feel my time is better spent washing than it is going out and giving prices to someone that's got 3 other guys coming in behind me and they're going to go with the low price. I'm not the smallest. I can't be the little kid on the street anymore. I'm in the middle. There's companies much bigger than me. And then there's most of the window cleaners here are one-man operations. And I think that's great. It's harder when you go to sell it. It's harder. Retirement, it's harder to take a vacation. It's still hard.
I'm a prime example of that. I'm primarily a solo operation. You know what I mean? And vacation is maybe 3 days. You know what I mean? And I'll be honest with you. I haven't had 3 days off in like 3.5 years. You know what I mean? Where there was no window cleaning going on. I'm at the point right now where I'm like on the shit or get off the pot stage in my business right now. I don't do door hangers. I don't do yard signs. I've got radio ads that go on the radio, but that's only because I clean the radio station's windows. You know what I mean? I don't
awesome.
I don't put any money into advertising. You know what I mean? I do have a website. I kind of self promote with social media, with Instagram to Facebook to my website, kind of deal. And it's getting to the point now where I've hooked myself up into a franchisee on restaurants, and they keep adding them like every like 6 months. I get like one or two more, and the money's awesome, but it's getting to the point where it's like the laws of diminishing returns. It's either I'm gonna do nothing but clean windows all the time, or I'm gonna bring somebody on. And bringing somebody on, to me, I feel like after working window cleaning as long as I did for someone else, I don't want to bring someone on and put them through what I went through. So I want to get
Yep.
to a point where, I can have capital in the bank so I can kind of afford that. You know what I mean? And I don't want to go ahead.
Here's the thing, TJ. What I did was, you don't cut them loose. You put them with you. And though two guys in the same truck can't produce as much as two separate guys going different directions, when the time is right to cut them loose, you do it. What I did with my guys to start the separation was when we were doing a lot of more route work, we'd start at 5 a.m. And we would always meet at 7:30, 8 o'clock at a specific place on a specific day, because our routes are, Monday is this, Tuesday is that.
Right.
And so we would always work together, but you do the early morning thing. And when you have, we call them wet jobs or time jobs, restaurants that you got to be there before
Yes.
11 a.m. when they open, or
my
a breakfast.
life right now.
Yeah, that's your life. But let me tell you, TJ, I'm going to give you a little advice. You can make a lot of money doing them, but you can only be so many places at one time. And that's kind of why I steer away from a lot of those, because my Friday route has 2 early morning restaurants and they open at 11. So I know I got plenty of time to get there, but we no longer do these breakfast places that open at 6 a.m. and you got to do them in and out because you just can't get it done. And unless you're getting a significant amount of money for it, then it's very hard, because in the amount of time I'm sitting there waiting for the guy to come in because he's late, I could have done 3 other route jobs.
Right. Yeah. True.
Real.
Yeah. I'm kind of lucky. I'm kind of lucky in the fact that the bulk of my restaurants I'm doing now are open 24 hours, so they don't really care. You know what I mean? That I'm in. You know what I mean? It's just part of it. You know what I mean? They're like, well, you got to do what you got to do. You know what I mean? So.
Waffle House pay good, TJ?
No, but the Golden Arches do. So
I had a McDonald's for a while. They usually self-clean down here, but there was one big one that had high glass, and I had that for a few years. And I had Burger King's, middle of the road restaurants for me, like Ruby Tuesday, Fridays, Chili's. Those
Applebee's
management. They manage to change so much that you're not going to keep it very long, or you're not going to keep them happy, or
right.
They're the first thing that I had. A bunch of Outback Steakhouses. I walked away from 2 of them because I had trouble. I had to fight to get paid, and
right.
That's a whole nother story. It's just not worth the aggravation on some of these jobs. But
that's the same thing I've ran into doing restaurants. You get into a groove with some of them, and then they don't want to pay, or then the manager leaves, and then you got to start dicking with another guy, and he's a prick. You know what I mean? And it's just the restaurants I do now are, after 10 years, I'm kind of gotten to the point where like I'm like picky. You know what I mean? I'm not like out begging for the work or no shit like that. It's just like we're either gonna work together or we're not gonna work together. You know what I mean? It's that simple.
Yeah. You got to get into your comfort zone and what works
right.
for your company. What works for me might not be working for you, and vice versa. And it doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it different. And we're in different areas, I know for a fact, because I had a buddy that moved to Boston, and he was a Florida window cleaner, and he calls me. I said, how's it going? He says, I'm building up a route. I'm making a lot of enemies. The thing is, up here, they get almost twice as much as you do down there. I said, yeah, well, you're going to be standing in the freaking snow putting some kind of blue juice antifreeze in your shit.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. And I'm going to be down
right.
my ass off.
Yeah,
Mark.
We know all about that.
Yeah. It's but like I said, we get a lot of guys that have retired from window cleaning, and it's amazing how much of legends in their own mind they are, and they had every big building in downtown New York.
I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They can be
exactly.
storefront guys, but if you go up and talk to them, they are the best window clean. They are every single
Yeah.
one I've ever met. And I try not to be like that, and I probably come off the exact opposite. I'm the douchebag I'm talking about right now. They are
I'm gonna
just legends in
I'm
their
gonna
own.
give, I'm gonna give you a little advice, TJ, too, because it sounds like what you got going is working pretty good as far as the commercial storefront. But the one thing I've learned, at least here in Florida with the pricing, is because I'm dealing with it now. I purchased another company that I worked for, and it's a long story, but I ended up with his entire 20-year-old company and 350 route jobs and their employees and everything else. And long story short, it's very challenging to pay employees to do storefronts that pay a minimal amount.
Right.
The storefront window cleaning business is an absolutely great business for somebody such as yourself that's going to go out and knock off 30 jobs in a day, 40 jobs, whatever you can do, depending on how tight your route is.
Right.
And your service area is. But it's very hard. I find that I'm almost trading dollars on my route with the payroll and the insurance and the gas and everything else that's
like busy work.
Well, I'll
right?
tell you. I'll be honest with you right now. I know maybe you have the wrong. I don't know. I don't know what I said, but the only kind of commercial work that I do is restaurants. I don't do like strip malls. You know what I mean? Like the five and dimes storefront. I think I maybe have 10 of those. The bulk of my business is residential work and restaurants. I mean, that's kind of what pays around here. You know what I mean? I live, like I said, it's feast or famine around here, man. And I have a company that comes from a big city, and they got some kid in a green car with a can of spray foam out banging out windows. I can't compete with that on, like Jimmy John's subs, storefronts like that. It's too hard to do. So I've kind of worked my way into the restaurant thing, you know what I mean? Just through, service companies and stuff because it's around here, it's a lot easier to do restaurants because there's always business there. You know what I mean? There's nothing but vacationers around here. So I do residential work as long as the vacationers are in town, and after that I'm like restaurants. I gotta kill it in the summertime. You know what I mean? I don't know how anybody survives out of just doing storefronts. I don't know how. It's because it's so cutthroat, man. It's tough.
But look, it is. But again, my father made a tremendous living doing nothing but storefronts, and that was a different time because you collected cash. Okay, he could never buy $1 million house, but he always had money, and he wouldn't give a shit. He'd go bid a job for weekly service. He'd do it twice a month. He'd wipe the ledges. He played a game. I, as an employer of employees, I tell my guys, I'm not going to pay you to skip something. I can do that for free sitting on the fucking couch.
Right.
You're going to clean everything that you need to clean, everything that you're paying for, And again, so for me, it's not that it's almost cash flow. It doesn't even, it's there. And but you got to understand, sometimes you walk into a storefront and you can get a nice house out of it, or you can get an office building out of it. You can it opens markets from within, or you can get pressure cleaning out of it. Say, hey, your chicken joint here has got grease all over by the dumpster, and we also offer pressure washing services. So the upsell, and I'm not a big fan of beating the customer up for every dime you possibly can. I don't do that.
Yeah, I'm not that way either.
You give them the information of the services you provide, and you kind of leave it at that, correct?
Exactly right. Like I've told customers, you got some mold. We're obviously a humid climate, so mold and mildew grows very fast here. And if there's a tree blocking the sun and it's a northern exposure where there's not a lot of heat, they're going to build, mold and slime and mildew on the sidewalks. And I tell customers, you're going to have a slip and fall out there. And just so you know, we do this. But even if you don't use me, it's something you want to look at, it's something you want to consider. And then they'll usually go, well, give me a price. And I say, well, we're going to give you a good price because you've been my customer for 3 years and we have no issue. So, instead of it being 25 cents a square foot, we'll do it for 15 cents a square foot.
Right.
And, the upsell part of it is very same thing with glass restoration. You see a window that some ass clown put some acid on and burned it. you know, and then well, I can fix that, you know. I mean,
Now
you know,
I'm
it's not.
really interested in the glass restoration part because there's not a lot of guys doing that.
Right, and that's initially how. Just a little backstory between me and Mark. That's initially how I came to start talking to Mark. Well, besides the fact that we were always laughing at each other's jokes, but
Good old
it
Dick.
was because I seen what Mark was doing and what Mark was talking about, and some of the things that he would say I would pick up on, and then I would like apply to what I'm doing, and I'm like, man, this shit's working. You know what I mean? So the more I started to pay attention, I was like, well, hey, Mark, how do you do this or how do you do that? And Mark's kind of helpful in that way, and then he's kind of guarded in others, which I understand. But that's, I mean, the restoration thing. I think like
Tell
you
us
were,
all your secrets
yeah,
right now.
right now. But it seems like that's you, like you were saying before we got going here. You kind of said that was kind of your future. That
It is. Look, this is my grand plan, and I hate to interrupt you, and I'm
No,
feeling
go
bad,
ahead.
Josh. You're not as vocal because TJ and I are hogging this, but as I said before, I came up from the storefronts and I did my share of residential to pay my rent at the time, and I've done the high rise thing for a long time. And well, what was left, pressure cleaning my area became saturated with guys that are what you call soft washing. I call it spraying chlorine everywhere, but to where we have big lawn services, they're pressure cleaning and soft washing, and handyman are pressure cleaning and soft washing, and painters are pressure cleaning and soft washing. So as the market grows, the prices drop. And I said, well, I've got this $15,000 Hydrotech hot water machine. And honestly, the customer doesn't care that I spent 15 grand when some guy comes up with a $300 Home Depot pressure cleaner and he's half my price.
Right. Right.
That's the bottom line.
You're
That's
right,
the truth.
man.
So,
you're right.
though I could do it in half the time, he's going to spend all fucking day there for the same $300.
Right. Right.
And so I started saying, what would be another way to replace the pressure washing revenue that has been slipping into?
Is it more saturated? I don't mean to interrupt. I just have a question. Is it more saturated pressure washing wise in Florida than window cleaning?
All day long. Oh yeah. Dude, we got guys here with $150,000 cab over flatbed trucks that have more diamond plate than a fire engine. Okay, they got 4 machines across the back, 500-gallon tanks, 500-gallon tanks of chlorine, big air compressors to run air pumps to pump the chlorine. And I say, and 3 guys sitting in the front, and I'm like, and this guy's working for 7 cents a square foot. How's he going to pay for that $150,000 truck? It doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
But that's what we have. Yeah, they're on every corner now. Not as big as long service.
Every window cleaner and pressure washer's game plan, especially in our climate, is we'll just go to Florida and we'll start our business down. I've heard that.
Well, see, I kind of, like you're getting into like you were like, where do I go from here? And I was like, and I'm like at the same spot. I'm like, man, where do I go from here? And I'm like, well, maybe pressure washing. And then the more I start to delve into it, it's like, man, there's fucking dudes everywhere doing this shit. And it's not that they're good at it, but you're right. I'm about to invest a bunch of window cleaning one. I'm about to, right. Well, what I'm saying is I'm about to invest all this money into pressure washing, and then this fucking jabroni's gonna go and spend $400 or $500 and get the job at half my price. You know what I mean? After I just dropped all this fucking money. You know what I mean? It's like, son of a bitch.
So you switch gears to the glass restoration. Like, what were you kind of in it before a little bit, like dabbing around, or was it just?
I had no idea of how to fix glass. And what I did, I did the typical internet research, and I bought probably 6 or 7 kits that are still, some of them are still available today. And being someone that has a mechanical background, the first thing I do is reverse engineer what they sold me to see how much I overpaid. Okay. But again, everybody's got to make a living.
Right.
And selling product or whatever, and I started several of the glass companies that install down here that we've done caulking work for and whatnot on high rise. I'd go over to them and say, hey, you got any wrong cut glass? You got any shower doors that aren't going to fit. And they say, yeah, we scrap them, go out back and take whatever you want. And I would haul home some glass, and I would try different abrasives and different polishes and different polisher speeds, and all the kits that I bought. And some of them are very good. Some of them are better than others, but they're not consistent, and I sat there and tried to figure out what's going wrong that's causing this. And then I started to realize one of the most important things is every piece of glass is different. Okay. You can get two storefront side-by-sides, both with, someone scratched their name on it. And one of them is going to react different to what you do to it than the other one, even though they came from the same manufacturer and installed at the same time. So knowing how to get beyond that and still make it come out right is where kind of the art is to that. So to make a long story short, I'd bring home this glass, and I made a fixture, and I would take a carbide drill bit and scratch it up and then try to remove it where you didn't know it was. And there was a lot of failures and probably $10,000 to $15,000 worth of kits and abrasives and whatever I could find on the internet. And I started to find the flaws in all the kits, and I figured it out. So I started to actually work with the design engineer and have some discs made that not only make the job easier and less of a learning curve, but they make it come out much better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, consistent. Exactly, consistent.
Now is restoration, is that in your framework? Is it, when you say restoration, does that include like stains on glass, or is it just scratches? I mean, do you do a lot of where I guess I call it screen burn, you know what I mean, where like the aluminum screen burns to the window?
Screen burn is pretty simple. It's a very mild issue. We don't have a lot of metal screens down here anymore, the galvanized ones. We have some copper ones near the water, and they'll produce the screen burn that you're speaking of. But yeah, so when I say restoration, it's a combination of stains or scratches. I do more stains than scratches, simply because I do the whole first floor of a building. I could be there for a month. And the one thing that you start to realize is they have to be at a place where they're ready to replace it. Because if they've looked at this stain for 10 years and you come in hot and heavy and you say, here's a sample, here's what I can do, and then they see the price of it, they start to say, well, I'll just look at it, But if somebody, I've seen that, but if they scratch their name on the window, they're pretty prone to letting you repair it. The scratches are harder to repair than most stains. Most stains we can get off pretty efficiently. If the glass is no longer flat and eroded, it's actually the same exact process I use to do stains that I do to do scratch removal, which is resurfacing. You're not removing scratches, you're removing everything around it and then blending it to fit. You can't repair a scratch. A scratch is glass that's removed, right?
Yes.
So being able to cut the glass down and blend it to where no one's ever going to see it is where the art of it is. And I've become pretty efficient at it to where it's very easy to make $400, $500, $600 an hour consistently. And when you get that right customer that knows the value of the service, not what you're charging them, that's the one that is the most profitable.
Right.
And look, TJ, if you called me and said, send me some of your polish, I can give you an explanation. I can send you some polish, which is going to work better than 90% of what you're going to buy on the internet. But it's a process like anything else, okay?
Right,
the best tools in the wrong hands produce shit results. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
exactly.
But you can give Snap-on tools to a kid, and he's going to strip nuts and bolts, just like he would with a Harbor Freight tool,
Right, yeah.
So that's what I really want to do is I want to come out there and teach people how to fix these issues efficiently, profitably, and so that they can make a lot of money. And this is in its infancy. So when I tell you I've done it all, well, I kind of have, but I've got like a 10-year plan in my head, and I don't know if I've extended that how many times, but within, I have an 18-year-old. He's getting ready to go into aviation mechanics school. We're going to visit some schools. So he's probably not going to be a window cleaner. I have a 13-year-old that, I'm going to have to keep an eye, because if he wants to get into business, whether I have my window cleaning or not, I'll always be there to help him build a business, or he could take over a piece of this. Or if he wants to go another route, that's fine too,
Right.
But my passion would be to be able to take someone such as yourself and say, I'm going to teach you how to do this and you can go make a nice living. Here's an example. I had a guy call me up and he says, I want to fly you in. I bid this restoration. It's $40,000 and I'm in over my head. I have no idea how to do this. And I said, well, you kind of shot yourself when you took the job without having the right experience, but we've all been there,
Right,
So
right.
I said, listen, you want me to come? I got to leave my business and my family, and I've got to travel across the country. I've got to stay in a hotel, and I got to have transportation and everything. I said, how's $7,000, and I'll spend 3 or 4 days with you. He says, $7,000. And I said, well, half of that's going to be eaten up with expenses to get there. I
Right.
said, now the other half, my what I have up here has a value, right? And he says, yeah, but that just seems steep. And I go, but you're going to do this $40,000 job. And when I leave, if you continue to practice what I show you, okay, you can go make $100,000. What the fuck, I mean,
Yeah.
come on. I'm going to teach you. Look, when I started really doing good with glass restoration, I could replace my window cleaning revenue in half the amount of time. Because
let me ask you this. Is there going to be in the future, like, there's a lot of these schools popping up. Is there going to be like a Mark Daniels, like a a class?
Look, here's what I'm doing. And because
Can I be one of your first graduates? Because that would be
absolutely, absolutely. Here's what my plan would be. 2 of the discs, I have 3 proprietary discs. I make my own compounds. I make my own abrasives. Everything is done in this shop that you see, okay, like a mad scientist.
I love it.
So
cool. And because I'm self-funding everything from day one, and I've got guys that would put some money up, but I'm not going to do that. I am self-funding. So I'm at a point with 2 of my 3 discs that are into patent review. So once I'm protected on them, not only could I show you and teach you and sell you possibly this disc, but the hands-on training is where it's at. Again, I can do glass restoration with a shitty disc. It's just going to take me twice as long,
Right.
and it might not be flawless. But
So what it sounds like to me is you're trying to put something together that's not necessarily foolproof, but to just really fucking consistent and efficient is what you're trying to do.
And exactly, and the main part of that, TJ, is that it takes a big part of the learning curve out of learning how to do it.
You've done all the hard work.
Yeah. Dude, I'm not lying to you. I've left my family in the house, which is 50 yards away from me here, but and stood out here and get excited when the UPS man shows up. And I got this new abrasive that I brought in from Germany, and I'm like, this is going to work. And it has to do with particle size and grit spacing, and there's a lot of things that I figured out, and it doesn't work. It just not what I thought it was going to do. And there isn't a lot of information on the internet that's actually beneficial. I just and I brainstormed with a buddy, Rodney, in Australia. He came over and we were working together. I showed him my discs and his eyes got like this big, and he's like, you hit it, mate. He says, and I was like, why don't you move over here, man? I said, let's do this as a partnership because I owe you as much as you owe me. And he says, I'm done. He says, I don't want to deal with this anymore, and it's all yours. So take what I've taught you and run with it. And
wow,
and I owe, and again, I've gone beyond that and still share with him.
Uh-huh.
And he, if you're going to do any work, try this and try that. And there's a lot of variables in it. It's not that complicated, but again, polisher speed has a lot to do with it. The heat that you produce, especially when it comes to stains. When I do stain work, my polish is 3 ingredients that are compounded together,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to have heat, you got to have friction. I see these guys with orbital buffers. I put an orbital buffer on my car,
Right.
and I got to put it on. glass. It just vibrates around. You're better off sitting on that and going for a ride, buddy. You know?
Right.
But still, I'm standing there with this drill, and I'm like, how can you hold that flat on the glass? It's going all over the place, you know?
Right.
And again, look, I'm not saying I'm the greatest at it. There's probably a guy in his garage right now that's absolutely brilliant, you know, and I want to meet that guy and brainstorm with him. But inevitably, like I said, 10 years down the road, I'd probably sell off this window cleaning. The guys that have been with me for 10, at that time, it'll be 15, 20 years they're with me. They're going to have a big opportunity because, again, from the day they started working for me, I owe them as much as they owe me, and they'll have opportunity to take this over. And my children, if they choose to go a different route, that's fine. And I would love to travel around and teach people, you know, and consult. You know, I come out there and say, this is what you got to do to fix the problem. This is what you should be charging. And at the end of the day, you should be able to make $150, $200 an hour all day long. Make sure you got a contract.
Well, I guess all of this kind of leads to what I guess, I mean, it's a question for me because I see a little back and forth with you. And I've seen a couple of your live videos that you've put up, manufacturing debris, because that's kind of like a hot topic in our industry now. And I know that I have personally dealt with this issue myself. Because I mean, I've fucked up a couple of things myself. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know. Don't
deny it.
Yeah,
if you haven't fucked nothing up, then you ain't out there making a living.
Right.
You know,
I've fucked up a couple of things. You know what I mean? I've actually had to pay for a couple glass reinstalls. I had to replace a couple windows. You know what I mean? Because of my razor blade.
Here's the thing, TJ. You saw that video where I took my plastic business card and put it on glass. Okay. Fabrication debris is not an issue for restoration because my process removes that debris immediately. It comes off the glass without doing. It doesn't matter if it's doing damage as it's coming off the glass because you're going to cut that glass down. Mm-hmm. That house that I did, I brought in a tint guy, a buddy of mine, and he put a hurricane film on it on the inside. And he said, how did all these scratches get here? I said, put your hands on the glass. You can feel it. He says, yeah. He called it rough glass. He goes, we deal with that all the time. He said, I've actually put tint on windows and it leaves bubbles. That's how big the debris is. So I'm not going to get into the debate if it's on the surface, if it's a imperfect surface. I kind of see when I put a plastic business card on it and it doesn't want to move and it's ticking, there's something there. Right. You know? Right. And look, I'm not going to stand on a soapbox and say it all needs to go away. Shit, I'm making a nice living because it's there. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's okay with me. It could be the Sasquatch. I'm okay with that. I'll just be the Sasquatch shooter.
Exactly right. That house that I did, I always question this. It was a big enough house. It was like 12,000 square foot and it was all the patio windows by the pool. And I'm like, he says, how do you think this happened? I said, this happened from improper construction cleaning. I said, there's debris on the glass. I said, it's not visible. I said, and when you put a blade on it, it breaks the debris off. That's the theory. And guys say it's not true and whatever. But in my mind, that's what's going on here. I said, but when I'm done, you'll be able to put a blade to the glass without any problem. And I proved that to you guys. Yes. But that said, you know, with the explanation, I think that, and all this started in the 90s, because when I started in the late 80s, it started in the late 90s, you could put a razor blade on any piece of glass and never have an issue, ever. Right. You know, and this is a new thing. And again, I don't know if it's because they're importing the glass or the improper cleaning techniques or whatever, but I just know, or maybe it's nothing to do with fabricating debris and it's just shit glass. Well, they should stop making shit glass. What can I say? Right. You know, but I've seen it on Starfire glass, which is the highest end glass you can get. I've restored Starfire glass. If you put a piece of regular glass, you know, you look at the side of a piece of glass that looks green, like a table. Yes. Well, Starfire glass will look light blue. Okay. And that glass has amazing optical clarity, meaning if you put it next to a regular piece of glass, it would look like a yellow diamond compared to a good diamond. Okay. And we can restore that. But I've even seen it on the high end, and Starfire glass costs double what regular glass does. Right. They use it in fish tanks or real high end shower enclosures and whatnot. So it's just everywhere you go. And some glass is just so bad, you put a blade on it or anything, and it's instant. And my question has always been this. If this house took you several days to do the construction cleaning, and you did this on every fucking window, and you didn't notice it,
Right?
and you just kept doing it,
Yeah, that's negligence. That's negligence and stupidity. I mean,
you do one, you see some light scratches. Well, okay, let me go do the next one and see if I see some light scratches.
Right?
Okay, let me go to the third one.
I'm gonna go up on a soapbox a little bit here, and I said I wasn't going to do this, but I will anyway. Let's talk about acids and abrasives, okay?
Okay.
Everybody here and most listening have used One Restore or Crystal Clear 550. The new thing that I've never tried is Barkeeper's Friend. That's not new, but oven cleaner. These guys are spraying fucking oven cleaner. It's not a matter of if it's going to damage the glass. It's a matter of when. And I'm not saying these products don't work. They do work.
Mm-hmm. But the variable is there to fuck something up.
And I've always told people, they say, "Oh, I hazed a window, and that's because the tin side is on the outside, and it reacted to the metal in the glass, and it turned white." And I say, look at this. You're getting. Let's say these guys say they get $30 a window. If you got $50 a window to do the construction cleaning, and you hazed one of them, or not construction cleaning, but a mineral deposit clean, and you haze one of them, you're so far in the fucking red, you're not going to breathe. Meaning that glass costs you a lot more to replace,
right,
than what you're getting paid to do it. So that said, again, look, I'm not saying I've never used it. I'm just saying there are alternate methods to safely remove stains, and I've always said that, well, okay, you take Barkeeper's Friend and you put it on a white pad or a wool pad or some form of pad. Barkeeper's Friend has pumice. Mm-hmm. Pumice micro scratches glass. You might not see it right away. It might not ever be evident if it doesn't get into the sun. But the issue is when you micro scratch glass, guess what happens? It's not going to shed water, and that stain's going to come back because it's now holding the water on the glass more than it would, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, so you're not a proponent of like that. What's that? That diamond shit. What's the diamond magic? Is that what?
Magic. Look, all these products, and again,
it would just. I mean, it just to me, it just. I mean, if it's got something with grit in it, I don't understand it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I don't.
But look, here's the thing. My polish has cerium oxide in it. Okay, mm-hmm. People go, well, look at this. I could go to C.R. Lawrence and buy a 5-pound bucket of cerium oxide for $40. Okay, It comes with the Mr. Hardwater kit. Great kit, by the way, for entry-level restoration guys. There's a plug for you guys because I respect their polisher. I respect everything about them. Is it going to remove everything? No, it's not. But it's going to get you to where you can start to learn on, different abrasives. So that said, the cerium that I buy is like $40 an ounce because it's like 98% pure. It's not pink. It doesn't have any inert ingredients in it, and it's aggressive. So I can't buy a 5-pound bucket of it because I'd probably be broke.
Right.
But the point is that when you try these things and look, different abrasives react differently. Some of them are softer than glass. Some of them are harder than glass. I've played around with zirconium. I've tried a lot of different things, and some of them work in certain instances. But anytime you put a chemical on a glass, you have the reaction. And here's a story that could have put my company out of business, but, we didn't have to cover our ass. We explained that could be some issues. We have a building in downtown Palm Beach I've cleaned for going on 17 years. It's an 18-story building, over 3,000 windows.
Jesus Christ.
And it's stone glass, and the stone's never been sealed, so you got the silicate staining,
right? And
that's common throughout the country. And that's a very hard stain to remove because it's not a topical stain. It erodes into the glass and leaves circular spots. That said, we did some sampling with Crystal Clear, and it made it look really good. And I'm like, wow, we can acid wash this building and make a lot of money, and they're going to be happy. So we did a sample. They signed up for the gig. We did the entire building. and this is the truth, and that building was built in 86, and this was 10 years ago. So it had, 20 some odd years of stains built up on it. We restored the glass. It looked brilliant. You could stand across the street and see it shine, and within a year to a year and a half, it looked worse than before we did the acid wash. Dude, the stains came back with a vengeance. So I came back with my theory, which a lot of guys have said, you're wrong. Okay, with 3,000 windows didn't prove this, then what will? When you acid wash a piece of glass, you leave it in a state that I compare it to a dry sponge. What happens when you get a dry sponge wet? It soaks it up.
Right.
It wants more. It's like deionized water trying to reionize it to cleaning.
Right.
It cleans. So they came back and said, the building really looks bad now. What are our options? And that's when I started getting into polishing and whatnot. And I said, well, let me try a couple different things. And we were using cheap cerium and foam pads, and we started polishing it. And it was taxing. We had to put a swing stage because we were doing the acid wash with bosun's chairs. You can't really polish from a bosun's chair. You just can't get the leverage placement. Maybe on one or two windows, but nothing on 3,000 windows. So long story short, we swing staged the job up. We're talking $30,000, $40,000 job, biggest thing that I've ever encountered. And we polished the glass up. That was 10 years ago or so. And guess what, Tej?
Wow.
It looks just as good now that it did 10 years ago.
So you should have just went
So by
there.
polishing it was almost like sealing it back up and protecting it. Is what.
Yeah. What it does is the water sheds off the glass. Washing it is even different. I mean, it's like a fresh rubber on a squeegee.
Wow.
You put the first 10 windows are like, wow, look at that.
I'm the best.
Yeah. So there's something to that. Okay. And again, look, I'm not going to say I haven't used those chemicals to knock a stain down.
Right.
Look, they all have their place. I've used it and then polished behind it so that doesn't happen.
Right.
So it's like if you do 2 of the 3 steps, you didn't do it right.
Right.
You do.
It's a process. There's no one answer for anything. You know what I mean? You gotta take each part of it. So I mean, you polish glass, you wash glass, you own a company. I mean, do you do anything besides that? I mean, what does Marc Tanner do in his spare time? Barbecue. I know you barbecue. You taught me how to cook a brisket, and I'm forever grateful for that. You're sitting here with 2 chubby guys. We gotta talk about food or something. Josh is about to fucking pass out. I figure if we talk about food, maybe Josh will perk up a little bit like me.
So,
woo, food.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, TJ. I'm a firm believer that you should. If you only know how to do 5 things in your life, do them really well.
Right.
I don't want to be a brilliant window cleaner and I can do nothing else. So you do it with a passion. So the barbecue thing I kind of stumbled upon. I started watching the shows on TV and everything, and I built a smoker out of an aluminum bread rack. You know those bread racks that hold trays?
Yeah.
Heated it in and insulated it, and I started playing around with recipes, and I bring buddies over, and and like I told you, I think I said, to cook a brisket for 15 hours and it sucks. Well, that really sucks because
and
I really started doing a lot of ribs, and then I entered a local competition and first place 3 years in a row, which got me into the KCBS, which is sanctioned and a lot of rules, just like you see on TV.
Right.
It's pretty dead nuts. And I learned how to do brisket and pork and chicken and ribs, and it's a passion. It's a very expensive hobby to enter a competition. Costs you about $1,000, and you'd be lucky if you place in all categories and you can sell some of your food to break even. It's a lot of fun,
I love it, man. I love cooking, man. That's especially smoke. I love turning the smoker on. It's like a ritual. It's like a shutdown. You're just have a couple of beers, smoke some food, and then reap the rewards later, unless you suck at it. Because I sucked at it for a while, and I was like, man, dude.
But see, it goes back to like I said, the stories of window cleaning. It's the competitive spirit.
Right.
It's like I go to these competitions, and I won the rib contest that was local 3 years in a row. And I walk up and I roll in with a 6x12 open trailer, and there's guys with $100,000 kitchens, stainless steel, and to kick their ass is the funnest thing ever, right?
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and so, the competition is fierce, and they're like,
Right.
"Oh, you're the guy to beat." And then I'm like, "All right, fuck you, asshole! I'm pulling the trophies out. I'm gonna if I'm gonna be a dick, be a big dick, right?" So I bring the trophies out, and we start going. And a guy comes up to me and he says, "I got a $15,000 smoker, and you're gonna beat me with that piece of shit homemade bread rack of yours?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." I go, "And you're the one that's gonna come to me afterwards. I'll let you try my food." And after the competition and the judging, everybody shakes hands. Friend, half these guys are fucking drunk and stumbling all over the place, and it's a great time. It really
Right.
is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I enjoy.
matter of
I've never entered one, but I've been to a few, and it's a good time, man. But you're like you said, it's fierce, man. Guys are like, it's like religion. You know what I mean?
Cooking is awesome, and hey, every couple of times I go to camp, my wife doesn't let me cook it all the time because she eats way cleaner than most of us. But
Right.
that biscuits and gravy recipe that you gave me, dude, oh my god,
Yeah.
I just take a fast of that
You
shit.
never gave
Oh
me
my
that
God.
recipe.
You didn't ask for it. You didn't ask for
Dude,
it. Mark
Josh,
reached out.
Josh, listen to me. Get him to text it to you, and I promise you this: if you follow his directions, you'll make a bathtub of that shit and go in the bathroom for fucking hours.
Yeah, I'm for real.
Oh my god,
That was my grandmother's recipe. There's only a couple
Yep.
of us that know it. I'm the youngest person that knows the recipe.
Yep.
Eventually, I might tell you how to make the biscuits because I can also teach you how to make some sweet ass biscuits for that too.
I'm in. Count me in. But yeah, so what do I do? The barbecue thing, and my wife bought me
Your smoker's
backwood
super
smoker.
dope. Oh,
Yeah, a really nice smoker for my birthday 2 years ago. It was like $4,000, and she's like, "I'm only buying you this because we're gonna go compete." Because like KCBS, they frown upon homemade smokers and whatnot because they don't want you cheating with propane and all that shit. But
right.
but so and between that and I'm a hands-on guy. I'm a Ford guy, and I'll get ragged on for that. But that's
Fuck them. Fuck them. They have to beat us both up.
I've got 7 or 8 classic '70s Ford trucks, and I've got a couple 600 horsepower big blocks sitting back here just waiting for a home. So, but see, look, here's the thing. This is a lesson for all window cleaners. I know a guy that lives, eats, sleeps, and thinks of nothing but fucking window cleaning. Okay. If you don't have a life outside of your business, outside of window cleaning, you are going to be like this fucking guy. I don't even want to see him because that's all he talks about is fucking window cleaning. This is my salvation right here. I can come back here. My wife will go, "You're not even doing anything. You're sitting on the chair." And I'm like, "I'm just looking at all my shit." You know what I'm saying? And I'm building shit in my head, but you got to be able to get away from your window cleaning in order to be healthy. So build your business to where it's enough to make your living and enjoy away, because I can say this. I had a restaurant manager come to me and he says, "Mark, you've been working with me for a long time." And I said, "You're the first account I've ever had that was over $200 a month." He says, I said, "I've been cleaning your windows since the day you opened." He says, 17 years ago. And I go, "You know what the sad thing is?" He says, "What?" I said, "Well, it's not sad, but it's kind of freaks me out. When I started washing your windows, I had a newborn at home, and now I got a kid graduating high school. So what I'm telling you is, dude, find something that you love to do, a hobby, and do it, because all of a sudden you're going to blink your eyes and the shit is gone. Life is way too short." To be.
You said a lot of smart stuff tonight, but that might be the smartest thing you've said all night.
I think so too.
I lost my father a couple of years back, and I can tell you this: he never had a hobby, so he lived, ate, and slept window cleaning. And towards the end, he hated the industry, he hated the business, he hated the people in it, he hated the customers, he hated fighting for money. He said, "I wouldn't change anything." And he says, "And you are what I'm very proud of, is that you've taken it to a level that I never thought would exist in this industry." So, but I have my getaway. Like I said, if I'm not out in the woods at our camp, I'm just sitting here looking at my old trucks, thinking how I'm going to fabricate something or weld something or build something, and or cut my fingers off trying to do something. So find a hobby, find something that you can escape from window cleaning, and because on the weekends, dude, I don't really work weekends anymore unless I absolutely have to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out here and I ain't thinking about window cleaning.
Right.
You know, I might go on Facebook and laugh at some shit that someone says, but you got to get away from it. And that'll make a healthy business because, you know, these guys that are constantly marketing and constantly putting their banners and their shit in everyone's yard. And again, wrong with that, but, you know,
that's Josh. Josh Schoaf, no bullshit, is 24/7. But I feel like what you just said, Josh kind of needed to hear.
There's a crossroads coming up, Mark.
Josh needed to hear that. Josh
Listen,
is burning it. Josh is burning it at both ends, in the middle, and about 2/3 on each side. He's fucking going hard body. He's got to stop and smell the roses eventually.
I don't want to be, 55 or 60 and be, really successful, but then say, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck just happened?
Right.
Well, listen,
everything I asked, and sometimes
you're
that's
younger. So here's my advice to you. And a lot of business guys will tell you the same thing. You got to plan an exit strategy. My exit strategy is 10 years. In 10 years, I'll make the decision to either give my kids something in this business and I will consult and push them in the right direction, or my employees will have that opportunity, or both of them. And I'll go out and do the grass restoration, whether I'm doing it or teaching it or developing products or
whatever,
or who knows.
Maybe. Right.
Yes, but that's the exit strategy. And if you don't have an exit strategy, a light at the end of the tunnel, then you're just going in circles, dude, wondering where the next fucking account is coming from and who hasn't paid me this month. So you got to get out of it. And that will make you healthy in business, keeping a clear head, not living, eating, sleeping, fucking window cleaning. Right. You know, I look, don't get me wrong. I fucking love every minute of it.
Right.
You know,
fucking A. Sage advice from Marc Tanner. What did I say? What did I say about this podcast? How fucking super extra dope it was going to be. You motherfuckers better thank me for this in the comments section.
I appreciate you guys having me on. And hopefully, some information that I've shared will benefit.
Well, I can tell you right now, Mark, it benefited me, this conversation, and I know I could see on Josh's face when you were saying a couple of things that he kind of lit up. He was about to fall asleep, and then he's like, "Oh, wait, what was that?"
Hey, I'm
only playing.
Josh, let me tell you something. You might be on the. I'm going to tell. I told this story to TJ, I think through text, or maybe it was on Facebook. But I'm going to tell you the story exactly the truth, so I'm not lying to you, because you'll see no difference if I put it into writing or I'm telling you this. But I always thought it was funny. I've got a guy that lived 2 streets north of me that picks up dog shit, and I'm sitting on a red light, going, window cleaning is kind of, it's a very small industry. We're glorified janitors, whatever. And I see this guy, and he picks up dog shit for a living, and I'm like, well, there's somebody that. Is a little lower on the totem pole, but hey, maybe this guy's got something going on. So of course, because I'm a fucking asshole, I call the guy. I'm sitting at a red light next to him, and I call the guy, right? So my employee's sitting there laughing as the guy's talking to me on the phone, not realizing I'm sitting literally 3 feet away from him on his cell phone. And I say, so how do you base the pricing on your service? Yeah, well, we come either 2 or 4 times a month, depending on how many dogs you have, and this and that. So I said, I have a blue tick coonhound and I have a lab. And I said, I'm on 1.25 acres. And I said, what would that be? And he told me whatever it was. And I said, one more thing. I said, I've got a grandfather that lives at the house. He's got dementia. And every now and again, he'll go out into the backyard and drop a pile. Would you mind picking that up too? How much more is that?
What did he say?
He hung up.
Oh, fuck. I would have been getting that money.
Josh should have been like, that's $5 extra.
I would have been like, old man with dementia? Yeah, we got a price for that. It's $65 a pickup.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you a question. What do you do when it's liquid loaf?
We take our shoe and we just say, oops, we stepped on that one. No charge.
I knew Mark was gonna. I knew there was something was coming. I knew it was coming. He was gonna get you. He's gonna get you.
Oh man, I love it.
No,
but I told, hey, listen, for real, no bullshit. Everything out in the open here. I told Mark, I was like, well, I want you having a podcast. We'll probably me and Josh, and he's like, is that the dog turd guy? I was like, well, no, I mean, he's Josh the window cleaner, but a couple of times a week, he's the dog turd guy.
Hey, God damn it, it's the poop dude.
Hey, listen, how about this, Josh? when I start my school of glass restoration, you get a free 5-hour lesson with me if you decide to put your duty tongs down.
Hey, we're recording still, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll hold him to that. We'll hold him to that.
Duty tongs. Do you I'm gonna go on my website now, and I'm gonna do something to put like sanitized duty tongs on site.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Do you have like if I had a website, I'd have pictures of my buildings. Do you have pictures of shit there? You know,
it's more of a cuter website, thepoopdudes.com. I'll plug the shit out of that. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. But it's we try to have a fun take on it, not here's a huge pile of disgusting dog shit.
Right.
With, yeah. Hey, Josh, let me tell you this though, Josh. I'm not. Don't feel like I'm trashing on you, dude. Anything to make. I'm not. But you remember in the movie Step Brothers when he's like, "You're gonna lick that white dog shit." Oh my god.
He's like, "No, I'm not." Awesome. He's like, "Yes."
I got a belly full of white dog shit, and you're springing this on me.
Oh fuck! I got a belly full of white dog shit. And you're springing.
I love it.
Oh fuck!
Shit on.
That's so good, man. I knew, Mark. I knew it was gonna come up. It was my fault. I brought it up, but
give me.
Why are you guys apologizing? I fucking love this.
It's so goddamn funny, man.
I'm looking for something to in the shop. Give me 1 second here.
Okay.
I got this. Here it is. Check this out. How much would you charge to pick that up, Josh?
That looks like something in my wife's drawer next to her bed.
It's even got corn. It's even got corn in it, right? Here's the funny thing. Dude, we went to our camp.
Yeah.
Okay. We were gone for 4 days, and we do have a cat, and we leave the cat in the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I tell my son, distract mom, I'm going to go inside the house first. And I put this in the litter box, right? Because, the size of a cat is not going to produce this. She walks by. She goes, oh, my God. There's something wrong with the cat. And I go, what? I'm pretty good at keeping a straight face. And she's like, it's even got corn in it. And I'm like, what the hell is this cat eating?
This fucking giant man turned in the litter box.
What a fucking podcast. Oh my god.
Oh fuck! It's too much. That's too much. That's so funny. My stomach hurts so bad. the fucking. I got a stomach full of white dog shit.
Come up like this.
I'm fucking dead, man. That's so funny. I got a stomach full of white dog shit, and you're springing this on me.
Greatest movie ever.
Oh yeah, it's so funny. Can we build a bunk bed?
God.
There's blood everywhere. You don't know how bad I want to put my balls on a snare drum. You have no idea. I want to find somebody with a drum set, just like dong dong dong.
That's the perfect way to fucking conclude.
Yeah, you're right. That's so funny. That was a great pull, Mark.
Talking about
that was
dog
super.
Shit, balls.
Yeah.
Well, this has been absolutely everything I had hoped it would be. I know Mark has expressed to me that he would like to come back again, and now that maybe now that we've gotten to know Mark, we might just laugh about fucking stomachs full of like white dog turds and shit.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. This has been enjoyable, and like I said, hopefully, between all the banter and the bullshit, that there is some good information out there.
Dude,
that
no question there was, man.
But I will. We can talk more about glass restoration. I can share plenty without, jeopardizing what I've got going on in the background. Because again, to me, look, if I can teach you a few things and you can go out and make money with it, that's what this is all about. I don't need anything from it. I just want. All I ask from you is that you keep what I give you to yourself, and you say, "Hey, what he's doing is working. It's working for me, and thank you." And that's enough for me.
Right. Right. Well,
That's
man,
stand up. That's stand up shit, Mark.
yeah, he's
I
a
appreciate
stand up
that,
dude.
Josh.
He's a stand up guy.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've been doing this for an hour and 40 minutes, man. So, I mean, I mean, like I didn't even expect it. You know, at 18 minutes, you're like, man, I'm talking too much. I probably, that's about it. I don't really know what to say. I'm like, man, we've only been doing this 18 minutes, Mark. I mean, and then I look down, and an hour and 20 minutes later, we're still we're still cutting
Yeah.
up. So
Well,
this,
like I said, when it comes to the window cleaning, dude, I've been doing it so long that, I've heard every excuse. I've seen everything that could possibly happen.
Right.
And well, here's another one. I'll tell you a funny story real quick. I know we got to go.
no, you're fine. No, you're fine.
We have the same building that we did the restoration on. Is 18 stories of office space, and the top 2 floors. Mm-hmm. It's hard to say if it's 20 stories because it might not have a 13th floor, but the top 2 floors are privately owned penthouses, and there's 4 of them up there. Okay, multi-million-dollar tenants. And when you come out of the service elevator, there's a door you go through to get what we call the walk around, which is where you do the drops from. Mm-hmm. And there's a sink there, or a sink basin, and then an area that the tenants put their trash bags, so the building takes it out for them, because God forbid they could carry a trash bag. But anyway, so the way my guys prefer Joy soap. Okay, we don't need to get into a soap discussion, but That's what they like. So I buy 5-gallon buckets of it, and I pump it into water bottles and hand it out. Or if they come by the shop, they pick up as much soap as they need. So long story short, one of my guys goes, here's a couple Gatorade bottles, fill them with soap with us so we don't have to come out to the shop. No problem. So I fill up 2 big, almost gallon jugs of Gatorade with soap. And after every drop, they dump the bucket out, and they go up with an empty bucket, much easier to carry, clean the water, clean the tools, and they fill their buckets up. So it was a Wednesday. I'll never forget. I get a phone call from the building. And again, I've been there forever, and never a complaint. It said, you need to come down here. We got a problem. I'm like, is everybody safe? Everybody okay? No, everything is fine. But the board from the condos upstairs is meeting with the building's engineers and the cleaning staff. You need to get down here. And I fly down to the building, and I walk into this room full of suits, and he says, I go, what exactly is going on here? He says, well, your employees decided they're, rather than use the bathroom, they're urinating in Gatorade bottles and leaving them on the sink basin. And one of the tenants saw it, called up the cleaning company. They refused to touch the bottles, so they had to get the building staff itself with rubber gloves to throw these bottles out. So I go, you got to be fucking kidding me, right? I thought I'd seen everything in all the time I've been doing it. He said, let me ask you a question. There were 2 bottles of what you're saying is urine on the sink basin. Yes, it was. And I said, and both bottles side by side were the exact same color urine? Meaning everybody's taking the same fucking vitamins here, guys. And I hate to tell you this, but that was soap. Oh, my. And so I had to go to the grocery store and buy more soap for the guys so that they could get back to work. And I bought them Dawn. I said, hey, they're peeing in bottles and they're fucking Smurfs, And we were so embarrassed. And I go, not only did I stop what I was doing 40 miles away to come to this meeting, but nobody picked it up and, turned it on its side to see if it moved like a lava lamp or something, Right. I mean, Joy soap, the industrial shit I buy is thick. Right. And I'm like, you can't seriously tell me that the guys were urinating bottles and leaving it for everybody to see. Absolutely amazing. That's so just when you think you've seen it all,
you haven't.
Something else.
Yeah. Fucking A. Well, Mark, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your candor, especially being so open with us about the shit you like to do and don't like to do, and white dog turds and and all that stuff. I can't wait to have you back. We really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. Listen, you guys have a great evening. Stay safe out there, and listen. And this goes to everybody. If you have any questions about glass restoration or how possibly to get a stain out, and I can help you, send me a private message. I'm not going to answer shit for everybody to see. And it's not that I'm going to hide anything from you, but I've been down a bad road with that.
Yeah.
And for right now, I will answer anything I can possibly tell you to point you in the direction. And again, whatever you do, do it with a passion, and you'll always, get where you want to go.
Awesome. Well, this was Marc Tanner with Sky's the Limit Window Cleaning down in Florida. That's where I got the squeegee life from, guys, right there. You see that T-shirt behind me? That's where I got that from. Soon as I got that T-shirt in the mail, well, this fucker sent me a T-shirt. It's a fucking belly shirt. He's like, hey, TJ, I'll send you a T-shirt, and I put it on. I'm like, what does he think I'm a fucking midget or what? Just like, no, you're just a little chubby. You used to be able to fit in that shirt. I'm like, that's fuck. It's got squeegee life on the sleeves and shit. And I just kind of, it was like, a good saying, it's the squeegee life is essentially what it is.
Amen.
Well, like I said, everybody around here we have salt life because we're near the beaches all the time, and everybody's got a life. And I'm like, well, why not squeegee life? And then, so I went to my guy that makes my shirts, and I go, I want a big muscular arm holding it. And we went through 3 or 4 emails, and I'm like, no. I go, I want Arnold.
And you were like, TJ, send me a picture of your arm. And I'm like, cool, dude, I got you.
Exactly.
This is what I don't want.
This is what I don't want. Can you do everything besides this arm right here?
Yeah.
Hey, man, I was cool. I sent you my squeegee guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent you my squeegee guy. You asked for I was fair about it.
Hey, I love trading shirts with people from out of state. I got one of Jamie Poolin's shirts.
Yeah, me too.
And Perry's got one of my Hoggy Style Barbecue team shirts, and he took a picture in China with him on it. I said, the only thing I ask from you is take a picture in China with this shirt on and send it to me. So they've been all around the world.
That's cool, man. That's cool. All right, guys. Well, this was Outlaw Window Cleaner episode 11 with Marc Tanner and Joshua Schoaf. And for Tim Huber, who's not here, we thank you guys for listening, and peace out.
Peace, brothers. Have a good.